Well, here we are back on our nice clean porch. Well, it was clean before I got the mud all over it. But anyway, you can see the bike is now clean. I dried it all off. But of course, coming back over there, look, you can see it's muddy. So, not much choice. But I'm just looking now at the bike. For those of you who don't know anything about this bike, you can join me in being as ignorant. But this is, compared to what I'm used to, this is absolutely a flying machine. That I'm used to the equivalent of a dinosaur. With this, I had a Racal dirt bike before this. And of course, this is Beth's bike here. A Suzuki Smash, and you can see that I call this a scooter type because it has the scoop out there, and this is the bike that you see most of the girls riding. Like Telek very quickly learned how to ride this. Lovely can drive this if someone else is sitting there for stopping and starting. She can actually work this and do quite well. But of course, she's not big enough to put her feet on the ground, so it's out of the question for her. But with the boys, you'll often see a 10-year-old riding. So back to my bike. It really is a very nice bike. I love it. This is the R15M. And it's only a 150cc, but it really does look like it would be much more. They do make a 350cc motor, and I believe it looks very much like this. So this is the fully fared, and it doesn't have the clip-ons, but you can see that this is a forward, what I would call a forward-leaning position. So it's kind of like it's a sports bike. This was very difficult to ride on that mud road up to the house. So eventually we stopped doing that. I actually dropped this. I had to lay this bike down twice when I was going up to Nana's house. That was the end of it for me. Why would I do that? So we brought it down here, and we used to store it right by the gate there in a little shed that we had made up. But of course we've now moved that storage shed, which was right by the gates, and it's way down there, which would make it absolutely pointless to have the bike there. So we're looking at 11. It will take 11 litres of gas, which I found that 11 litres. The first thing, of course, I did when I got the bike was I filled it up, which I think, not quite sure, but I think it took about 400 and something pesos to fill it up, which, as you can imagine, that compared to the Raptor is just incredible. So this will do in hundreds of pesos what it took thousands to do in the Raptor. So this makes total sense. It's more complex than I am familiar with, but I've actually started it there. It shows you that it's in neutral. It also shows you that the ABS is engaged. You can, no, you can't disconnect the ABS, but you can, there is a traction control, and you can disconnect the traction control. I'm really quite happy having the traction control on, so I'm not really interested in finding out how to turn it off. But you've got the lock here. So if you press this down when you've gone around, it will lock the bike in this position like this. I think it does actually have an alarm on it, but I'm not quite sure. Now, we had one little bit of a problem when we first got it, when I first got it and started driving. I left it for a few days because of bad weather and it wouldn't start. So it turns out that the GPS will not even, the GPS is on all the time and it will not even allow for 2 days of not using. 2 days, day and a half, it's already flattened the battery, which is a big drag working with the flat battery. You have to take all of this off. I think you have to take this off as well. Then there's some other pieces. This piece here, look, there's got screws there. That has to come off before you get to the battery. So it's a drag doing that. But the other thing that's good about this, which it took me a while to use, because it was totally beyond my technical know-how, and that's this little gadget here. This little gadget allows for you to actually change gear without using the clutch. So literally it will respond as if you've engaged the clutch just by a touch. This is what I do, and then it will kick down as many times as you like, which is really good because you're not yanking on this all the time. Front brake is really excellent. The mirrors are really good. The only thing that I don't like about this bike is here, if you have to lay the bike down, which does happen, this will be damaged. No way around it. And this one, it was damaged. I think that actually they put a little screw in there for me. I did have some tape on it, but they fixed it at Yamaha. Everything is very nicely laid out. You've got a readout here on the computer. Now if you start getting too high in the revs, then a little white light comes on, and as you go more and more into how many revs, it actually shows going up to 11,000 revs there, but it's already showing about 3 or 4 lights if I over rev it on the road. I don't tend to drive that fast because there are so many potential hazards here in the Philippines, and you really have to focus when you're riding. It's not a case of going and having a nice relaxing ride, poodling along, because so many things can happen. Chickens, cows, yes, cows, an occasional pig might get loose and run out into the road. Dogs are out in packs everywhere and they can scoot across the road. Now I've been told by my friend Brian Ahern says that this bike is like, I think what he has, a similar bike or weight, and he said he felt that this would let me survive going over a dog, which actually on something like this you would be off and onto the road. So that's reassuring. I don't want to run over a dog, of course, but it's reassuring to know that I can survive. But you have the traction control, and the traction control means that if you do hit a patch of gravel or sand, which can often happen here, it will allow the bike to not respond. This is how it seems to me. I could be wrong in this description. It will allow for you not to rev and for the revs to run away from you. It controls that like that. That's the best of my knowledge. I'm not a mechanic, and I'm not into bikes in a mechanical way. I love riding this bike. It's a real pleasure, and for me it's a beautiful bike. I love it, and now it's clean, it's even more beautiful. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.